Hello everyone and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning and today I'm joined by my co-host Pearse McLaughlin. Hello Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to the two Scotland matches during this international break. We'll also be discussing the latest managerial news from Rangers. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off with the two Scotland games during this international break. So Scotland had two home games at Hampden. So the first one was against Greece and they managed to claim a victory, 3-1 against Greece at Hampden. That was on Thursday, the 9th of October. And then on Sunday, the 12th of October, they played Belarus at Hampden and they won 2-1. So because of these two results for Scotland, that currently means that they're now sitting on 10 points in second place. Denmark are first with 10 points. They do have a significant goal difference. But it also now means that Scotland are guaranteed a second place finish, or if they can go even better and finish first, which means that they would gain automatic promotion to the World Cup. So that's the rundown. So we'll just talk about the two games separately. So we'll talk about the Scotland versus Greece one first of all, Pearse. First of all, did you watch it, and what do you think about the result?
Look, I didn't watch the game live. It was a bit late for me to be watching it. I think it was like 4 a.m. for me. But I did catch the highlights, the key points of the game, and obviously the general consensus around the match itself and the players and the fans' feelings. And obviously Scotland beating Greece 3-1 is a significant result because Greece are a good side. It's the third time Scotland have played them in the last 6 months. And most recently, Scotland lost 3-0 to Greece. So a little bit of a revenge there in terms of the positive result. And the fact is, I don't think the performance was great, especially in the first half. Nothing really of note in terms of chances. And then obviously, second half, it livens up. Obviously, Greece take the lead and then Scotland retaliate straight away. And then Lewis Ferguson gets us in front from a second phase of a set piece. And then the third goal is just a calamity of errors. I don't know what the goalkeeper's doing. And then Langdon Dykes just has an easy tap in. And it puts like a little gloss on the scoreline that we probably didn't deserve and the performance probably didn't merit. But the most important thing as a Scotland fan is the 3 points. And it got us off to the perfect start in terms of the double header that we had. So I think for me, although the performance wasn't great, the result is all that matters.
So I did watch the match, and to say that Scotland were lucky to get a victory is a bit of an understatement, to be honest, because I think Greece will feel very hard done by. Because for me, Greece were the better side in the match. They dominated the ball. They are a good team, Greece, to be fair. When you watch them, they're a really good team. They pass the ball really well. Get some good players, the likes of Pavlidis up front. But Greece pretty much dominated the full match. They got their goal deservedly in around about the 60th minute. And you're thinking that, they're going to go and win this now. Chances of Scotland don't look great. And then all of a sudden, a corner, second phase corner, Scotland get back into it. They score again very quick in Scotland through another set piece. And then, as you said, the last goal was a bit of a calamity from the goalkeeper. So, a very big 3 points for Scotland. Because obviously Greece are, obviously Scotland and Greece are quite similar in terms of sort of experience. So it was very important for Scotland to get that win. Very, very big 3 points. But I do really think Greece will find that they were hard done to. But End of the day, didn't take their chances. Scotland did, and Scotland walked away with a very big 3 points. So we'll now move on to the other match, which was Scotland versus Belarus on Sunday, the 12th of October. That finished 2-1 to Scotland, as I said. So once again, Pearse, did you watch the match? And what do you think of the result?
Well, I didn't watch the match. I haven't caught the highlights yet. But what I will say about the game, I'll just mention the result in general. Scotland have obviously beat Belarus 2-1 at home, which wasn't the most convincing results considering Belarus aren't really that high ranked a side. They're rock bottom in this group phase. And I think Scotland made hard work of it yet again. But the victory is the most important thing. And for Steve Clarke to then mention the performance wasn't good and he wasn't happy with it. And obviously the Scotland fans booing the players off at full time just shows you that Scotland, where they come from, because we didn't qualify for major tournaments. But under Steve Clarke have made 2 Euros and we're potentially on the verge of a World Cup qualification for the first time since 1998. So I think perspective's got to be taken into it. Consider it doesn't matter about performance because in the day it's a result-driven business. And Scotland, like you mentioned in the table, we're joint top with Denmark, who've obviously got a better goal difference than us. But we've still got Denmark and Greece to play. So still to play for 2 games left to get automatic promotion. Otherwise we'll be getting put into the playoff. Which I think if you said to any Scotland fan, you'll be unbeaten after 4 matches, 3 wins and a draw, joint top of the group, I think we'd have took your hand off 100% because I think after the last Euros where we get absolutely battered, we didn't know where we're going and because before that we'd beaten Spain and stuff like that and like the confidence was high with Steve Clarke in Scotland. But after the Euros, it took a dip. What the confidence and the fans and the nation kind of went back to the disconnect that was before Steve Clarke. So I think slowly but surely we're getting back there in terms of the results. The performances will come, but a sign of any good team is if you're winning games and not performing well. That's all that matters. And I think if Scotland qualify for the World Cup, I don't think anyone will look back on these 2 games and say that we played poorly, but we won luckily because people just bought we've got the 3 points. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it was a really, really bad performance. Probably one of the worst Scotland performances I've seen for a long time. And even and Steve Clarke agreed. Apparently, he was. John McInnes said that he's never seen him that angry at half time before. In all the matches that Steve Clarke has managed the national team. So that just goes to show because Steve Clarke is quite a level-headed guy. He doesn't really give much away. So the fact that he was really unhappy suggests that even proves it even more that Scotland were really bad. They were lucky. They were lucky to win that match. I thought Belarus. I think Scotland came into it a little bit too comfortable, thinking that it's just going to be an easy 3 points because obviously Belarus have. I mean, they're not doing anything really to show that they're capable of competing. But they turned up to Hampden and actually played better than Scotland. I thought they kept the ball better. Um, and were much more front-footed and pressed Scotland really high up the pitch. And yeah, Scotland just struggled all afternoon. And yeah, very, very big 3 points again. But as you said, if they get to the World Cup, then no one will care about these performances, as you said. But obviously Scotland aren't there yet, and it is the next camp coming up is a really big camp because that will obviously see if we've automatically got to the World Cup or if we need to play the playoff. But the big worry is the performances because these 2 games, although we've got 6 points, it's such a weird feeling. We've got 6 points from 6, but the 2 performances have just been pretty poor. I think there definitely has to be some words between the players, because I think they need to kind of back up their ideas a little bit. But at the end of the day, Scotland are on 10 points. They're in an absolutely unbelievable position to get to the World Cup in America for the first time in over 20 years. So that's the question I'm going to ask you, Pearse. Do you think Scotland will get to the World Cup, and what avenue? Do you think it'll be automatic, or do you think it'll be through the playoffs, or just
Um,
don't think they will?
Tom, I genuinely don't care how we get there, as long as we get there. Because, like you say, you mentioned it's 27 years that we haven't been to a major tournament. And knowing Scotland, when we get there, we'll probably get the toughest group imaginable and get absolutely battered every game. But it doesn't really matter. It's the getting there, the competing. It's just seeing your club, your country, you at a major tournament up with the biggest nations in the world. I would love that. I would love that more than anything. But in terms to answer your question, I think we will qualify. I prefer us to do it obviously automatic. I think we've definitely got a chance. Denmark at home. We drew out away from home. Big chance at Hampden. And then obviously Greece away, I think is a really tough one. Because like you said, they played really well at Hampden and they didn't get the result. But you kind of get lucky twice, like you say. I think the next camp you mentioned it has to be really, really good in terms of the performance level needs to be a lot better because you can't keep getting away with it all the time. So if we want to qualify for the major tournament, the next camp is massive. We need to take at least 4 points, maybe 6 points, depending on how Denmark perform. But we need to take 3 points off Denmark and whatever we can off Greece because to give us a fighting chance, automatic promotion. But like you say, playoff or not, I think we've got a chance to make the World Cup, and that's all any Scotland fan can dream of.
Yeah, I agree. I think they will do it. I really do. So basically, if they get a draw against Greece, and then basically, we both expect Denmark to be Belarus. So it will go down to the last day at Hampden, the last match. A shoot out between Denmark and Scotland to automatically qualify for the World Cup. And I think if Scotland were to win that, it would be wow, it'd be something special. But so that's the situation we're in. I don't know. It's going to be hard to do it automatically because Denmark, they proved that they've been really good in this group stage. I think they will do it, Scotland. I think they will get to the World Cup regardless of what avenue they have to take because they've shown that even like we're talking about how bad they're playing, but even if you're picking up the points, that just shows how strong a team they've got. Shows that the mentality's is good in the camp, and a lot of that squad now have got a lot of experience. They've been to two major competitions. They've played in big stages, played in all the big tournaments. They play at a high level. I just think that I just think that this will be the time that we do get to World Cup. And I know Steve Clarke is desperate because, well, it's not confirmed yet, but I think we all know that this is his last sort of tournament. He's not going to go. I think whatever happens, if we don't get to World Cup or not, he has said that he will not be here. So Steve Clarke will be desperate to get that World Cup
And
bucket list
another
ticked off.
stat as well, Tom, is like Steve Clarke's now the longest serving Scottish manager.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so weird as well because like you read the sort of media coverage and the fan views of him, and he isn't very well liked and respected. But I mean, you can't. He's the most, in my opinion, he's the most successful Scotland manager that there has been. The way that team got is something special. They've competed really well for the last few years. Got to two tournaments. Yeah, and for me, I think he's been the most successful Scotland manager.
Aye,
Yeah,
because you
and
look at Scotland over the years, right? When both of us were younger, right? You had like Alex McLeish, um, Walter Smith, and you George Burley, who throughout the three campaigns we get really close to tournaments, and even Gordon Strachan a couple of times get close, but we just didn't quite go over the line. Steve Clarke's done that twice, and he's on the verge of a World Cup. So for me, if he gets to World Cup, build the statue.
Yeah, I think after when he does leave, I think people will recognise the um the job he's done. But I wouldn't be surprised if we did see a statue of Stevie Clark at Hampden. That I don't know if I'd be saying that, but you never
It's
know.
certainly, it's
If he
certainly
gets us
not
to the
going to
World
be a
Cup, if he
smiling
gets us to the
statue.
World Cup, then if he wins us the World Cup, then I think you'll get more than a statue. But no, that's a long way off. But no, no, I definitely think once he does leave, I think he will get the appreciation he does deserve because he's done an unbelievable job with the national team. And yeah, um, so that's where we are with Scotland, uh, on the verge of a World Cup, and we've got another international camp coming up in November. And I'm really praying that we are on this podcast talking about Scotland qualified for the World Cup. That'd be amazing to talk about
Yeah.
that.
Just hope you're
But
football for
exactly, I know. Let's just hope
that.
that um, I am really hoping that we are part of that. But obviously, still a bit of work to do yet. So, yeah, so that's that. So we'll move on now to club football. So obviously there is no club football on off because of the international break. So no matches to talk about. But we'll talk about the latest update from the Rangers managerial search. So the the top target for Rangers was Steven Gerrard. They held talks last week in London. Apparently they've done well, but we now know, and it's been confirmed that Steven Gerrard will not return as Rangers manager. He's decided to step away from talks with the Rangers board, because he feels that the timing isn't quite right to return. And yeah, he turned around to the Rangers and said, "Thanks, but no thanks." Basically, I don't want to become the new Rangers manager. So, Pearse, what's your thoughts on that news?
I think he was also Rangers' number one target. Obviously, he delivered some sort of success when he was there first time around. He won obviously the 55th league title. A lot of Rangers managers have, and since him and before him, didn't win a title for a long, long time. So he was the first one to break that duct. And obviously, what he was as a player and the style of play that he had at Rangers and the way he played in Europe and stuff, I think it excited the fans, and that would have potentially get the fans back on side because even though they didn't win as many trophies as they would have liked, they still played good football and they still competed at the highest level in terms of European football and in Europa League and obviously in the Scottish Premiership. So I think that's a big blow for Rangers, but I think it timing also wasn't right for Gerrard, and maybe this time around he doesn't want to be head coach, he wants to be manager. In terms of work with Kevin Felwell, the sporting director, the transfer committee, I don't think that maybe works for him. I think because Gerrard would want like full control of who he's bringing in, and obviously Gerrard himself, as his reputation, attracts certain players. That's how you got Ryan Kent, Joe Rebo, and that in his first spell. So to get that caliber player, you would need a name like Gerrard to attract these players north of the border from England and abroad. But also that's not to be. Maybe his backroom staff isn't ready for him to get back at the management. Obviously, he's been out of work for 6, 7 months now. So obviously, I think the now attention turns to who else is it going to be because obviously they've got a massive game this weekend, Dundee United. So it just remains to be seen who will be the next favourite to take over the job. But for me, I think it's a massive blow for Rangers and the fans. I think Gerrard was the one they all wanted, and I think it's probably the biggest name that's been linked so far to return. Obviously, Rodgers did it last season when he made a return to Glasgow and managed Celtic after he went down to England in similar circumstances. I think the Rangers fans would have been split, but I think they'd have took to him very quickly because obviously getting your so-called messiah back, like your the man that brought you success before, would ultimately hopefully bring you success again. So I think massive blow for Rangers and the search continues.
Yep, I agree. It was quite obvious that he was the man that Rangers wanted to appoint. Um, obviously it held the talks. I mean, it held the talks, and just from what I was hearing last week, I was pretty much certain that we'd be talking today on this podcast about Rangers appointing Steven Gerrard. I thought it was a foregone conclusion. So I was really surprised to hear at the weekend that he turned in and turned it down. Was really surprised. I didn't expect that at all. And I have to say, I think it's for the Rangers board. I think it's a bit embarrassing, to be fair. You know, because again, that's the second time. Because I think they talked to him in the summer before Russell Martin got appointed, and he turned it down at the time as well. And yeah, I just think the fact that they've talked to him, they've told him what this is what want to happen for them to turn it down. I think they'll feel a bit they'll feel a bit embarrassed about it. And because it was obviously he was our number one choice. It was the fans' number one choice as well. I think when you read the fan sort of reaction, they were desperate for Steven Gerrard, and I think I understood because obviously we know Steven Gerrard, we know his career. We also know the experience he had the last time at Rangers. He had the respect of the fans. He built a good team. And yeah, for me, I thought it would have been the perfect fit again, but it's not happened, and that now means Rangers turn to whoever else it is. There's some names getting mentioned, the likes of the former Sheffield Wednesday manager Danny Rowe. For me, I mean, it kind of sounds like another sort of Russell Martin appointment, similar. You know, for me, if I was a Rangers fan, I'd be worried about the experience because he's only managed one club. That is Sheffield Wednesday. He's still very young as well. Um, but there's loads of names getting floated about. As you said, they're playing Dundee United at the weekend. I don't think they will have a manager by that point. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the days coming.
Will we see? Will we see Graham Murray in the dugout?
We might see Graham Martin again in the dugout doing roly polies. He might roly poly back into the dugout. We don't know.
So if that roly
But
poly did in the past, that was at Dens Park, so Dundee United, I mean, not far from it.
aye, so he goes. He likes doing a roly poly in Dundee. So, uh, aye, so I don't think they'll have a manager by then. Um, you know, so it's going to be interesting to
On
see
a
who they
serious
get.
note, then, who do you think will be, or who would you like to see as the next Rangers manager?
Well, I've always said I think Derek McInnes. I always said Derek McInnes for a number of reasons. Number one, I know, I think we all know it, and in Scottish football, who follows Scottish football, I think everyone knows it's quite obvious that he is a Rangers fan. Right, he's played for Rangers. I think he's brought up a Rangers fan, so he knows the club his whole life. He's got a huge amount of experience in Scottish football. Knows the league inside out. You know, carries himself really well when you listen to him in the media. You know, I feel like he talks really well, and I feel like he would get respect to the players. And I just feel like he's a manager that sort of gets it. He understands what it is, what it takes to be a Rangers manager, and he nearly got the job in 2017, and he turned it down. So Rangers have obviously admired him for a long, long time. Um, I like the only thing I would say is the fact that obviously European stuff, he's got no experience of that. Style of football isn't the greatest. And obviously he's at Hearts at the moment who are riding really well, who are doing well at the moment, and I don't know if he'd want to leave, even though because he only took the Hearts job a couple of months ago. So
Yeah.
that's what I thought, but I think that'd be quite difficult. What about you, Pearse?
Oh, like you mentioned the names like Danny Rowe, Derek McInnes. I think for me, one that doesn't really get mentioned enough for any big job in Scotland is Stephen Robinson. I think
Yeah,
he's done a tremendous job with St Mirren and Motherwell, and like, with no budget whatsoever, he makes them organised, he makes them hard to beat. He always performs above expectations in the league. But like you say, he should be in the mix for it because like he knows the league inside out. and you need someone that, and I think what Rangers need to have, and what Celtic and Rangers always had in the past, is a Scottish core of players with your foreign talent around that. It doesn't necessarily need, but there's also like a core of Scottish talent or Scottish players in the Scottish league that should be in amongst your squad. Maybe not necessarily starters, but they teach the players the expectations, the demands, and obviously the quality that you have to have while playing for the big two in Scotland, and obviously the fan pressure and stuff like that. But I think, like you say, I think for me, I think the standout candidate is also Derek McInnes. I think Derek McInnes is the man for me. I think you mentioned, we all know he's a Rangers fan. He's turned down Rangers a couple of times in the past. Maybe it wasn't right for him. Certain stuff we don't know anything about those things. They haven't been publicised. But for me, he's like you say, he's managed St Johnstone, he's managed Aberdeen, Kilmarnock, and now Hearts. But the only thing for me is I think he would have left right away if maybe it wasn't for Tony Bloom and his investment, and the fact is at the top of the league at the moment. I think if Hearts were mid-table, I think McInnes is gone, but I think maybe he's contemplating, I'm riding the wave. It's really high at the moment. Where can I take this Hearts side? Because like you mentioned, like maybe he's not associated with the most attractive style of football in his Aberdeen or his Hearts, but when I've watched them this season, they've actually been exciting to watch. Like the additions he's got in, like Kizaridis and Braga, and Shanklin's back scoring goals again, and and they're solid defensively, and they've got big Stuart Finlay that he's known very well for his time at Kilmarnock. He's got Craig Halkett back, and I mean, like, and they've even got the German goalkeeper Schwolo, who used to play for Hertha Berlin. So they've got a good core of players there, and I think it might be tough for him to leave, but I think inevitably he will leave, and I think he should be the next Rangers manager because, like you say, he played for the club, he supports the club, and I think he knows the expectations, and I think Rangers would be making a mistake if they go for Danny Role, someone like not many games, English Championship. I think someone has to know the club or know the league to take on the next role, or they need to have someone associated, maybe a coaching staff that former player or whatever, similar to like Barry Ferguson, like when he came in at the end of the season, like, he steadied the ship. But I think, like you say, I think Derek McInnes for me should be the next Rangers manager.
Yeah, I think we're both agreeing that. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what does happen. I do expect that decision to be made imminently. I probably end of the week, probably around about Thursday, Friday. I would be expecting Rangers to know who they want as their next manager. And then when that does get confirmed, obviously me and you will react to it and see what they'll bring and if it's a good or a bad appointment. So for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yep. So obviously international week. So just a couple of friendlies for Japan and South Korea. But first we'll start with Japan. So on Friday, the 10th of October, they played a friendly against Paraguay in Tokyo. And the match finished 2-2 with Kokugawa and Ayase Ueda scoring goals, and also man of the match Junior Ito. So it was a very competitive game where it saw obviously former Newcastle United man Miguel Almiron score a cracking goal as well. But so they're obviously just experimenting, obviously friendly, not really competitive fixtures. But it's a good test in preparation for the World Cup next year, which Japan have already qualified for. And on Tuesday, the 14th of October, 7th, which is tomorrow, they'll play Brazil and obviously Tokyo. So I think that'll be a big test. And obviously, mentioning Brazil, South Korea played Brazil on Friday and they suffered a 5-0 defeat with Estevao getting a double, Rodrigo getting a double, and Vinicius Jr. with Rodrigo picking up man of the match. It was men versus boys, really, I think. South Korea were there, but they weren't really there because it was just the levels, like the South American sides against South Korea are just stronger, physically, quicker, and technically a lot better as well. So, bad day to offer for South Korea, but like you said, it'll a test they'll have to take some notes and learn from, because like you say, they've also qualified for the World Cup in America and Canada next year. So, and obviously they're playing on Tuesday as well, the 14th of October. That's an 8 p.m. kickoff in Seoul. While they'll be playing Paraguay, so it'll be a good test to see the level and hopefully get a positive result. In terms of other Asian football news, Son Heung-Min 33 is now the all-time appearance maker for South Korea with 137 caps, surpassing both Cha Bung-kum and Heung-Min Bo. Yeah, Ulsan HDFC have decided to dismiss manager Shin Tae-Yong just 2 months after his appointment. He clashed with players due to outdated communication styles, and he also caused internal friction by publicly declaring plans for a roster overhaul without consulting the club. And he's leaving Ulsan, champions from last season, in a very precarious position in the K-League this season. So Gus Poyet may miss out on the K-League 1 manager this year. Obviously his side are well and truly a matter of weeks before they clinch the title. His sides have been the most dominant side in the league, but he's expected to be disciplined for an Instagram post about refereeing, where he called out referees about a certain decision that never went his side's way. And under K-League rules, anyone fined 6 million Korean won or more is ineligible for the awards shortlist, and it's yet to be seen what he'll be fined, but it's looking highly unlikely that he will be manager of the year, considering his side's been the best side in the league. But if you don't follow the rules in terms of criticising referees publicly, then I think it's something that has to be done. But for me, that is all the latest Asian football news, and over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
Bye-bye.